Welcome to the Expert in You Showcase, the show where we bring you quick, powerful conversations with elite entrepreneurs and other professional business experts to share their best strategies, secrets, and tips to help you have more success in your business and life. I'm your host, Carden, and this show is brought to you by Expert in You, where we empower professional entrepreneurs, business owners, and experts to become influential figures and celebrities in their markets and add 6 to 7 figures with more ease. Discover a game-changing secret that attracts leads, qualifies them effortlessly, warms them up for your offer, and hands them over ready to say yes. We want to make closing deals for you a breeze. It's time to stop chasing clients and consistently fill your calendar with highly qualified conversations and sales opportunities every month. Increase your influence, impact, and accelerate your income and strategies that work. Book your business accelerator call with me now at acarden.com and let's map out your next step. I am really excited for my guest today. I've known her for a lot of years. I have Amy Lemire with me. Amy, welcome to my show.
Hi, Ian. It's great to be here.
Amy is the founder of AIM. I want to make sure I get this right. AIM Training and Consulting. And she's really been in the sales professional side of things for many, many years. She's a dynamo. I mean, she's been super involved in NSA. She's been a speaker all over the world, and she's just done a lot of big things. And so, Amy, I'm really excited to dive into what you're doing in sales because it's different and it's so needed. But before we do that, you have some backstory about an experience, a near-death experience when you were 9 years old. And that's really what you learned through that experience and how you have been able to evolve that into what you do today. So would you just share a little bit of that?
Yeah, sure, Ian. So I love to share my story with the audience because it really is a demonstration of why mindset is so important to sales, business, and life. And so my story actually started back in 1977 when, I was just 9 years old. I had spent the day out at Six Flags in Eureka. And as we were leaving, unfortunately, there was a drunk driver that my mom near dodged a head-on collision. And from that experience, I always say I remember waking up in the hospital room and not knowing why I was there, what happened, and learning that what had happened is my family was warned that if I survived because of the collision, what had happened is that my whole world could have changed in a split second. I was warned that I could possibly be blind, brain damaged, might not ever hear, walk, or talk again. And by some miracle, I pulled out of that experience. And I always say that the easy part of that experience was the decades of cosmetic and reconstructive surgery I had on my face. But the part that was the hardest part was the part of the challenge that it took to my self-confidence. And from that experience, I really learned that it's really our life experiences. Sometimes they look like the world is over and things will never be the same again. But what I learned from that experience at such a young age was that it was really the seed to determination, self-confidence, and also it was the seed to building courage. And at that young age of 9, I really learned that it's not what is here that matters the most. It's really what's on the inside, our personal power that matters. And so that's just the really short version of my story.
That's an amazing story, but you did not let it define you in the way that it held you back. You actually allowed it to propel you forward. And I love that story so much. And what an inspiration you are, Amy. And you've just done such amazing things in business. And I know that you have helped so many people. You've made such an impact out there in the professional space. And so it brought you into really helping people with sales. But one thing that makes you different is you don't just address the outer game, which is what a lot of sales experts do. They don't address the inner game. And the inner game is typically what really creates the success for people. You need both. You need to have the tools and the knowledge to know what to do. But look, at the end of the day, if the mindset's not right, you're not going to do the things, even if you know what to do. So I love how you've merged those two things. Have you done formal training as well, Amy, around mindset, around that personal development, that inner game piece, so that you are stronger to the people that you work with?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And that's a great question. I started that journey of self-improvement, self-development, human potential, as I call it. Shortly after that accident I was in, I got introduced to the book called Determination, the story of Helen Keller. My grandmother sent me the book. And then as a teenager, my mom gave me my first Tony Robbins book called Awaken the Giant Within. And then shortly after that, I started going to workshops and seminars when I was a student at the University of Kansas. So I went to some seminars called LifeSpring. And then once I got into sales, I started going to Tony Robbins workshops and loved Tony Robbins so much, I actually became a senior leader for him. So I work his events from time to time. And
Oh, I
all
didn't
of
even
that,
realize that. That's great.
thank you. Yeah, it's exciting work. And it all of that came full circle though when I got into the career of sales because I, like so many people getting into sales, lacked the self-confidence once again. And so
Mm,
what I did at that point is I joined Toastmasters, and that helped me develop more of my speaking and my leadership skills. And then
mhm.
later, again, that, morphed into National Speakers Association. So I've really made the whole concept of self-development and human potential almost like my, a habit that I live by every day because I think it's so important to sales success and success in business and life in general.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I always say, one of my big things is you have to step into the expert spotlight. But like you're talking about, you have to have the confidence to be able to do that. You have to be in the right mindset to do that if you're really going to shine in the marketplace. So good. And I know, I again have just watched you for so many years, Amy, and see what you do in the speaking world and out there in that space. Let's talk a little bit about when you're helping teams. You really help teams mostly be high performance. Is so when I assume that you're working mostly in the corporate space, or do you also work with entrepreneurs? Like who are your ideal clients?
Yes, and in the past, of course, I was an employee working for someone else for most of my life, and then just 3 years ago, I started my own business, AIM Training and
Mm-hmm.
Consulting. But in the beginning, I was really trying to figure out who my target market was. This is a great lesson for all of us is find your lane, pick your niche. Niches lead to
Mm-hmm.
riches. Because in the beginning, I was working mostly with individuals on confidence, a lot of entrepreneurs, and then I was also trying to get more corporate sales training opportunities. And I, is bouncing back and forth like a ping pong
Mm-hmm.
ball between both of these markets. And really, over the past year, I made the decision to really focus more on the corporate market because I think choosing one market, one niche is a lot easier day to day to work on and focus
Yes.
on versus trying to do two different things.
Yes, absolutely. What do you see that you have to do differently in that working with corporate clients as far as like generating that client as opposed to maybe working with entrepreneurs that you can find everywhere? What have you seen to be the biggest differences?
Yeah, I think with the entrepreneur market, in the past, I used to do my own weekend retreats and I
Mhm.
did a lot of webinars. And I felt like I was always looking for my next prospects or my next people. And then on the corporate side, it's different because I forget sometimes I worked in that market for 30 years. So over 30 years, you meet a few people. And much of the work that I do is for contacts and people I've met or known over the years. I also
Right.
meet people through speaking, referrals. But I think the biggest difference between both of them is that, I'm going to be upfront. The corporate game is definitely a tougher game to play. It's higher stakes, it's a longer sales
Mhm.
cycle. And you've got to be really buttoned up to go into that world. And I think the biggest difference is I find that I like to go into their world versus creating my own container for people to come into.
Yeah, and it is a big difference. There is a huge difference in the two. But the one thing that a lot of people don't realize is you do talk about it being a longer sales cycle. But when you go and speak on a stage in front of CEOs or people that could hire you, I don't know if sales directors are the ones that hire you or exactly who brings you in, but when you go and speak in front of those people, a lot of times if you've done a great job for them, they are really good about referring you into other companies or into other even departments. And so a lot of times you can get more from more bang for your buck, so to speak, or more bang for your time because Whereas in the entrepreneurial world, the referrals are just a lot slimmer. And like you said, you really have to do a lot of the work to bring in the clients. Do you find that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, and I think that's part of it is when I wrote my book From Zero to Sales Hero, I did share one of my secret sauces is I call it attitude, activity, accountability. I tell my whole story in that book about how I had my best sales year and then the followed by the worst sales year ever. I almost got fired from my job and I hired a sales coach. And that's really where I saw that, we've got to have daily activity.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing day in and day out to grow your business? We've got to be in a positive attitude because people buy from who they like and who they trust. And then how are we holding ourselves accountable to all of those standards? And running a business I think it's almost like being in sales the same way as running a territory because I'm still day to day. If my numbers or my performance and my results are not where I
Right.
want them, I always go back to those three concepts. Usually one of those is off sync.
Yes, absolutely. And I think a lot of people, especially as entrepreneurs, they just don't realize that consistency, you really have to treat it like a job, even though we don't want to work a job, right? You have to treat it that way or you're not going to get very far. And I think that's the biggest failure for most entrepreneurs is that they don't take it seriously. They really don't treat their business like a business. They don't treat it as if they worked for someone else and they wouldn't be able to get away with a lot of things. I always say, even as an entrepreneur, you might be working online or whatever. If you had a storefront, you had a place of business that you had to go to and you had to unlock the door every day and you had to be there and you didn't show up, what would happen, right? And a lot of
Right.
entrepreneurs don't think about their business that way. So I love that you actually shared that. Hi, friend. I have an exciting announcement. I hope you're enjoying this episode of Expert in You podcast, but I have to ask you, have you checked out the latest issue of Expert in You magazine yet? It's jam-packed with rich content, powerful strategies, inspiring stories, and so much more to help you elevate your business and personal growth. Don't miss out. Go grab your digital copy now and join our community of experts making a difference every day. Go to expertinyoumagazine.com and check out your digital copy today. Transform your expertise into success with Expert in You magazine. It's not just a publication, it is a movement. So when you're actually working with corporations, tell us a little bit about what you're doing with them. I know you're doing the inner and the outer game, but what is it you do with them specifically?
Yeah, so the first step of my process, I call it my deals process. But whenever I meet a prospect, and it's interesting because I did have a couple calls earlier today, is D means discovery. I
Mhm.
first discover what their needs, challenges, issues are. Sometimes it's sales, sometimes it's performance. And the next thing I do after I get that discovery done is I present an executive summary and I make recommendations. Here's what I heard you say. Here's what I recommend. And then
Mhm.
after that, we agree on the next steps, which is typically the proposal. And
Mhm.
then if that proposal lines up, sometimes it does, sometimes we need to move things around. I present the letter of commitment. And then the last thing I do is I always, always, always want to make sure there's a shared commitment, which means it's a win-win for both of us.
Mhm.
So that is really what I do to go into the companies. And then once I'm in the companies, the majority of the work, it's really split between sales training, which is, I call it sales effectiveness. So sales process, sales playbook, and success habits. And
Mhm.
sometimes companies we just want to work together for one session. Sometimes there's an employee meeting or a conference, and I'm going to be in for that. But then sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's a year. It's really just depends on what the needs are. And those are really the three key areas that I work on, though. I would say sales success habits and also sometimes speaking and communication skills.
Very good. So and this is giving people a little bit of a glimpse into sort of how you run your business or how you do your business. What kind of pricing model do you have, Amy, when you're working in those corporations? Do you have flat rates? How do you do things as far as the structure of your business?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so I do have, depending on the program the client is looking for, I do have a profile on eSpeakers where I really list out what all my main programs are. But
Mhm.
it's just really, I take a customized approach instead of a cookie cutter approach. So it really depends. Obviously keynote speaking, I have a flat rate, a one-day
Mhm.
workshop, I have a flat rate. But when we're talking about working together for 6 months or a year,
Mhm.
we're going to be looking at how many people, what all are we going to focus on? Do we want to be on site every month? Do we want to do everything remote? So those are some of the
Mhm.
factors. And that's where I think I'm a little bit different than some of the other big sales training companies out there is I really customize it to what the client needs and wants and what their budget is too.
Right, right. Who makes a great client for you, Amy? Is there a particular industry, a particular size business? Who is that person
Sure.
for you?
Yeah, the clients that I typically work with, I still have a pretty big following in the med tech, medical technology sector,
Mm,
but I also work a lot with bank and financial services. And then last but not least, I would just say home services, so HVAC roofing services. I have
mm.
some clients in that sector. So some of the areas I do not work in only because I don't have the expertise would not really be a fit for retail sales, and I probably wouldn't be a fit for over the phone selling. Those would be two areas that I would probably refer to someone else.
You're really more about the service face to face kind of sales and consultative sales, we should say.
Yes, yes, yep, direct
Mhm.
sales. And that's even though I have done some work in inside sales, my first sales job, ironically, was selling flip phones and pagers back in the day.
Mm,
In the late 90s for anyone that was, in that era. But
mm.
that was over the phone where I sold those products. But again, that was quite a long time ago. And it's I haven't done it such a long time. I could probably give some tips, but it's really not part of my main business model.
Yeah. Do most of your clients, Amy, come from speaking or do they come from referrals? I know you said you have a big network from being in the corporate space so long, but how do you basically bring in your business?
Sure. The ways that I attract clients, and definitely, probably first on the list would definitely be through speaking.
Hmm.
And when I speak, I use a survey that maybe your listeners have heard of this, maybe they've not, but it's called Talkadot, where you can actually have a QR code and people can answer questions and they can say, yes, I'd like to join your email, or no, I don't want to join your email. And
Hmm.
yes, I know someone that needs a speaker, or yes, I need a speaker. So that's one of the ways that I attract clients. And then also through referrals. And then again, a lot of it is also through just networking. So networking, going to in-person events. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
and those are some of the ways that I network and get more
LinkedIn's
clients.
such a great gold mine, isn't it? I love
Oh, it
LinkedIn.
is. Yes, it's
Yeah.
changed a lot, hasn't it?
It has. Yeah, it's such a great platform. When people know how to use it and they use it correctly, it's just a gold mine. So
I
it's
agree.
awesome. And Amy does have two books. So you have Zero to Hero Sales and Zero to Hero Speaker. Now your speaker book is fairly new, right?
Yeah, the first book, Zero to Sales Hero, was written in about 2015, and then Zero to Speaker Hero is
Oh, I said
2019.
that backwards. I think I said the
It's
title
okay.
backwards. Sorry
It's
about
okay. I
that.
was going to say it. I'm sure people will, but they are on Amazon, to your point. But basically, they were written a couple years apart from each other. And my Sales Hero book is really about how, again, I went from literally being a top sales performer down to the bottom and how I worked my way back up. I put my 10 principles that I believe to be the most important in sales in that book. And then the Speaker Hero book is about how I overcame my fear of public speaking. Because believe it or not, I have a whole story around that too. There was a time in my life where I was deathly afraid to stand up and speak in front of people. And after joining Toastmasters and staying in that for quite a few years, really not only found that I liked to speak, but really it opened a lot of new professional doors for me. And just a miracle again, how sometimes our darkest days can be our best days.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things too that people need to understand, two of the biggest fears that they don't like to sell and they don't like to speak. You're tackling both of those fears, I think, for people. But one thing that people need to understand is these are skills that anyone can learn. And people think that it's a natural ability, it's a natural talent, and neither one of those things are natural. um you learning how to sell, learning how to speak, those are, I mean, yes, you might be more outgoing, but you still have to learn the speaking skills. You still have to learn the things that are going to make you a powerful speaker. And so it's important for people to know that those are skill sets that they need to learn if they're going to be in business and that they can be learned. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. interesting because I gave a couple keynotes recently, Anna, and I talk about that exactly what you just said, that really, sales is a skill, self-confidence is a skill, speaking is
Mhm.
a skill. And I think some of us just have this idea that we're either born with those skills or we're not. And I don't think that's true at
Mhm.
all. I mean, yes, some of
No.
us might be born naturally ready to jump into those, but I think everybody can learn how to do those because there was also a time in my life where I was horrible in sales, and I share my story often that my first 6 months of selling, I wanted to quit. I mean, I really did. And then this voice came in my head and it said, stay with it, stick with it, learn how to sell, get better at it, and it'll take you places. And my mom had been in sales, my dad had been in sales. And there was a part of me that knew there must be a reason I was doing what I was doing, as hard as it was. Again, one of the other pieces of wisdom I would share with your audience is just resolve to never quit. Because if I would have quit, I'm not sure
Mhm.
what I'd be doing today. But
Right.
don't quit, don't give up, just find help, find support. I had a lot of mentors. I learned from a lot of the mistakes I made and just made it a constant commitment to keep growing and learning.
Yes, absolutely. And it is so important that people realize as well that those are two of the most valuable skills you can ever really develop, in my opinion, because they will take you so far, whether you're going to work for someone else, whether you're going to have your own business, they are just skill sets that will take you a really long way. Amy, this has been so great. So just a couple more quick questions. What are your big goals for 2025 as we're kind of in the beginning of Q1 here?
The goals I have for this year, Anna, really more about growing and scaling my business and
Hmm.
bringing on additional trainers and support. Also,
So you want to bring people under you.
yes,
Very
definitely.
cool. Hmm.
Definitely. And also, I'm going to be in a upcoming anthology book called Unsung Heroes of Business. So I just submitted my first draft of my chapter for that. And honestly, I really want to play a lot more this year. I really want to have more fun. And like we all, again, part of my philosophy and part of the habit finder coaching I'm certified in is really about, doing less and being more and really leaning
Hmm.
into that this year. I'm taking a cruise with my husband in April and want to go to take another couple big trips, but just really continuing to find ways to work less, work smarter, and to really enjoy life more are a
Yes,
big part of my goals for the year.
I love that. What do you see to be the challenges for that?
I think part of it is the entrepreneurial mindset. I think
Hmm.
part of it, I always joke and share with audiences and my friends that I'm a recovering workaholic
You're a
because,
doer. Yes.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
a doer. And I think all those years I was in sales, it was always about go, go, go and hustle,
Yeah.
hustle, hustle. Again, that inner versus outer game we were talking about
Hmm.
earlier. And I think it's really hard to break that habit, but I also think that sometimes we are so passionate about what we're doing that we forget to take the time out for it. But part
Hmm.
of what I've really focused on is making sure I've got those work-life boundaries. That's probably one of the biggest because I've crashed and burned before. I've done that before where you just feel like you're doing so much and nothing is happening and working. And then I go away for a week or 2 weeks and I come back and I'm like, the only thing I really needed to do was get away and everything came
Yes.
together. So instead of making it, well, the only time I'm going to take a break is on a vacation, I have really good boundaries about, not working after 5. And I'm going to raise my hand and say there are some times that I have a summary or some that's due first thing in the morning. But for the most part, I really make sure to block my weekends for fun and play and really not making it because if I'm not getting the 100% recharge and reset I need, then I can't really serve people with 100%. So easier said than done, but I work on those boundaries it is an everyday process.
Yeah, so important and so true. And you really do, if you're really going to grow your business and get freedom, you have to move into that CEO role more than being the doer. And you have to really understand what that looks like, but you're just working in a different way. And I always say when your business is developed in the way that it aligns with the lifestyle you want, you can still do the things that you enjoy. If you still enjoy getting out and speaking on stages, you can still do that, but you don't have to do that. And that's the difference that I think a lot of people don't understand. They're like, well, I don't want to give this up. But it isn't about giving it up, it's about not having to do it if
Right,
you don't
exactly.
want to,
I
right?
agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Amy, this has been so great. Thank you so much for being my guest. we are going to put all of your information, your books, all of that will be in the show notes so people can connect with you. And by the way, Amy, I didn't even realize we were not connected on LinkedIn. So I just sent you a connection request. We've been connected in the online world for a long time, but I guess just not there. So
maybe on Facebook. Yeah, that is crazy. Well, I'm glad
yes.
we're connected on LinkedIn now.
Yes. So I did connect with you on there, and we'll promote this show across channels. And so I just thank you so much for being my guest, sharing your story, sharing your wisdom, and some great takeaways for everyone today. So all of her information will be in the show notes, everyone. And Amy, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Anne, for inviting me. I enjoyed connecting with you today, and congratulations on your all success that you have and the amazing things you're doing in the community for people in business. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Expert in You Showcase. And on that note, make sure you subscribe to the show and to the channel. And Amy, thanks again. Go rock your business, everyone. God bless you. If you are ready to attract high-paying clients like clockwork, build powerful influence and scale your business with ease, let's talk. Book a complimentary $1 Million Accelerator Strategy call at acarden.com to discover how the Expert in You method can help you create a steady stream of premium clients and consistent revenue growth. Don't wait. Your next big breakthrough starts with a simple conversation. Visit acarden.com and let's make it happen. Have an amazing day, and God bless you.